I want to quickly show off some of the things that you can do with the randomizers. So here's a test scene that comes with the asset. As you can see on the left side, there is just a normal scene, no randomization happening. And on the right side, a lot of these objects have randomizers on them. So pressing any key will just cause the randomization to trigger again. And you can see things changing. You can hear the music pitch changes. It plays a random seagull sound every time. Some of these objects disappear and reappear. Some of them have different rotations. Some have different sprites on them. So these are all things that you can do with the project. And I also want to show off how to do them. So in a new scene, let's put a couple trees in here. So let's see. They're just sprites, nothing special about them right now. But there's all of these different randomizers that we can add to them. So let's say I wanted this one to have a different position every time the scene loads. So you could use random position 2D or 3D. So there's the 2D and 3D versions of all the transform randomizations. And then the way it works is you say whether or not you want them to run on start, and the chance that this thing will run, 1 being 100% chance and 0 being never run. And every single one of these randomizers has those two options. Then for ones that modify the transform, we've got this use original transform. And what that'll do is when it goes to randomize the position, it's going to use its original position to randomize from. If this is off and you randomize more than once, it'll just keep randomizing from its current position. And so most of the randomizers have this double-sided slider, and basically what you're seeing here is this is, given the original position, this is how far away it can be moved. So with this means between -1 units away and 0 units away, and somewhere in here is where that random is going to take place. So let's say I want to be able to move it, 1 unit to the left, or between 1 unit to the left, and that's it, and then up and down maybe 3 units. So, big change in position there. And you'll see when I go to run it, it's moved down. And run it again, and now it's a little to the left. A little more time, and now it's way up here. So that's just taking its original position and randomly assigning it a new y position between -3 and 3 away, and then between -1 and 0 for the x position. So there's also rotation. So let's say it can be any rotation. Also, let's give it a new scale. So scale has another interesting one, so you can actually do 2D and 3D scale changes. So let's say I want to be able to change the x scale and the y scale separately, or if you want to do them together, there's this locked one. So let's say with the tree sprite, I want it to stay the same aspect ratio, and I want it to be between half its normal size and its full size. So this goes off of a percentage here, so scale percent. It takes the original scale, which is 111, and multiplies it by the percentage that it gets from here. So in this case, it'll be between half and 1%, or sorry, half its normal size and its current size. And you'll see it's smaller, it's rotated, and it's down. So these randomizers all stack really nicely. Another cool thing we can do with color is random sprite color. So let's say we've got this white box here, and we want to give it a random color. So I've got these ones basically set already, but with this gradient editor here, you can choose a full gradient, you can make a list of colors, And just to show you, let's do a new one. So let's say I want it to be between like a blue and a red. So we'll go red here, we'll go blue here, and this mode up here, blend or fixed, blend will allow it to randomize any color between these two. Fixed does the same thing, but you can think of this as more binary now, so there's only set colors, so it can generate anything from over here all the way to over here, but it also it doesn't get any colors in between. It's locked between exactly red or exactly blue. So let's say for this one I want a gradient. Let me create another one of these and move it over. And for this one I want to do a list. So let's add some more points, and let's say we want red. Let me give it a nice yellow, purple, and blue. So it'll only ever be one of these 4 colors. And now when I go to run it, you'll see that one's purple, and this one ended up being some shade of blue. Run it again, that one's closer to red now, that one just chose the blue. That's the purple, and somewhere right in the middle. And so this also works with 3D. So let's move, actually, let's try one more thing here. So there's all sorts of things you can do with this. So we can do random sprites, we can flip it. So this is saying when it's run, we'll randomly flip the sprite's X or Y axis. So this will be on or off. And with a random sprite, you have this list of sprites that can replace it. So let's say maybe it can be a treasure chest, maybe it can be the tree, maybe it can be a cloud. Now when we go to run it, so it's a cloud, and it didn't randomize the x-axis there, or the x-flip. This time it did. It was a tree. It flipped the x, and you can see between those 2 trees there, it's flipped. This time it's a flipped cloud. So there's all sorts of things you can do, and all of these combine with each other. Now let's try doing a 3D scene. So let's create a cube, and we're going to need a light. So something like this. And there's actually a light color randomizer. So let's say we want it to be anything in this rainbow here. And I want it to be pretty intense. Okay, maybe not that intense. And with this box, so again let's see if we can see this thing. Oh yeah, and let's make the camera perspective. Sorry, that was set up for a 3D scene. Let's move these closer to the origin. All right, so we've got these 2 boxes. Let's make one more. Okay, so we'll run it, and you'll see the light is this yellow color. This time it's blue, so it's sort of picking from this gradient here. Another thing we can do is randomize the camera color, the background color. So let's say we want to pick from this list here. When we run it again, we'll see the background is now that yellow, and then the color picked up pink somewhere in here. And now we want to do some changes to these cubes. So let's do random scale. And so we have control over all 3 axes here. So let's say I want the X scale to go from 1 to 3. And these aren't hard limits. If you open up the code itself, you can actually modify these if you need to. I think they're in decently reasonable ranges, but it's pretty easy to modify them. And also, if you've messing around and you ever want to set it back to the default, default is just no random at all, but there's these reset buttons. So let's say we want to change the X scale, the Y scale between 1 and 2, and maybe the Z scale between -1 and 1. Let's say this one we want to rotate it. So you have control over all rotational axes. I'm just going to bump some of these up, give it a nice little range there. And this one, so you can actually change the material, oops, not scale. You can change the material color. So let's say for this one, I want it to be, actually no, let's go with like a list of colors here. Blue, green, and that red there. So now when I go to run it, I believe, what was the scale over here? This one should rotate, and this one will be a different color. There we go. So the really nice thing about this is, let's say you're making a game sort of like this, and you want you want some variation in your scene, just easy variation to make it a little different each time, or to give it a little more feeling. These are just very easy ways to drag and drop onto objects in the scene and make it so that they look nice and they have some variation, and you create less assets and get more out of those assets. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions or find any bugs or have any recommendations or any things you want randomized, feel free to contact me. I'll leave my email in the description.